You're listening to Bark and Wag's 15-Minute Vet Talk. Each week, your host, Polly ReQua, interviews veterinarians and individuals in the pet industry from across the nation answering pet questions. Bark and Wag podcast is produced weekly for your enjoyment, and show notes can be found at barkandwag.com under the podcast tab. That's BARKNWAG.com. Please remember to subscribe to Bark and Wag 15-Minute Vet Talk.
This Bark and Wag is brought to you by Rover.
Rover is the nation's largest network of 5-star pet sitters and dog walkers. Through Rover, pet parents can discover, book, and manage personalized care for their dogs, including pet sitting, dog walking, in-home dog boarding, and doggy daycare. As the nation's largest national network of 5-star pet sitters and dog walkers, Rover is here for you. Rover offers access to reviewed, trusted pet sitters and dog walkers for every dog, owner, and lifestyle. Your dog deserves the best. Only 20% of sitters who begin their profiles are ultimately accepted to become Rover pet sitters. With Rover's convenient app, you can search, book, favorite, and pay. Receive adorable photos, detailed maps of your dog's walk, and custom updates. Free in-person interviews and home environment visits to find the perfect match between sitters, owners, and pets. For $25 off your first booking, visit rover.com/vettalk and use promo code VETTALK during checkout. Welcome to Bark and Wag 15-Minute Vet Talk. I'm your host, Polly ReQua. Today we're talking to Kersti Nieto, trainer at Dog Training Camp USA in Raleigh, North Carolina, on what to do when your dog will not come. Welcome, Kersti.
Hi, Polly. Thanks for having me.
So we had a situation, our black lab decided to go after a moose. And actually it was 2 moose, looked at my daughter and I and said, "See ya."
Yeah.
And just took off. So I wanted to have you back on to help us figure out tips for Maddie to learn how to come. Do we take her back to class? You know, what are your thoughts?
Well, that's a big thing is you find yourself in that situation where there's a giant distraction and you need your dog to come, and that's when you realize, oh, we should probably be working on this a little bit more. And that happens to everybody. That's happened to me. It's kind of when you're working on recall with your dog, it's more about a relationship that you have where they want to come to you no matter what because it's always worth it. So there are things you can do to practice, and that way you're kind of set up to succeed when they are off leash or they get off leash and you're somewhere with a moose or in an area with a lot of traffic. So I think the biggest thing is practicing it throughout the day. And no matter how old your dog is, they're going to get rusty on that recall. So you always want to make it fun, make it exciting, make it the best thing in the world to come to you and call, and never call your dog for something bad like cutting nails or taking medicine or cleaning their ears, something that they might not enjoy. You want to go to them and bring them to you. So that way they don't start to reason that, okay, well, last time you called me and I came, you cut my nails and I hate that. Or you were really mad and I don't want to come to you when you're like that.
Okay.
So those are the big things when I'm working on recall, when I'm teaching it to other people, is to always make it a party, the best thing in the world when you are calling your dog, and to avoid calling them for things that they might find unpleasant or that they might reason to be unpleasant. And then when you're practicing it, you know, if your dog isn't coming to you from 3 feet in front of you or from across your living room, then that lets you know that they're probably not going to come from across the yard or across a field. So you start really small and build on that. And you can do that throughout your day where, you know, you're just in the house and you call your dog over while they're sleeping, or just interrupt whatever they're doing and make a really big deal. And sometimes give them a really rewarding, tasty treat, and other times just love on them. But you always want to mix it up and keep it interesting and fun. So it's always like, ooh, mom's got something that's better than what I'm doing. It's worth it to go check in.
And so you don't necessarily need to have the dog on the leash?
No, well, in some instances, yes, but during your daily activity, if you're in the house, just practice it once in a while. As a general rule, when I have training dogs or my personal dogs, I think like 10 times a day during the day, but not making it a specific activity. Does that make sense?
Yep,
So you're kind of
perfect. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just for fun. But then, go outside and work on it on a leash. So you're walking your dog and they're off sniffing, and say their name. And when they look at you, start backing up and get really excited. And you can get low down too, so that they're kind of enticed by you. They're like, ooh, what do you want? And then when they come, then, oh, good job. It's the best thing in the world. And then once they're doing that, and you just make it a really fun game and be genuine about it. So the dog really knows, like, oh, they really like when I do this. And then what I do from there, once, they're good about coming from shorter distances, I'll get like a 20 or 30 foot leash. So it kind of simulates being off leash, but you have that safety. And it sets you up so they never have a chance to ignore you. So if you are on that 30-foot leash and you're working on calling them and they look at you and they give you that eye contact, like, no. So if they look at you when you call them and then they just kind of brush you off, then you can reel them in and still keep it fun and still keep it, oh, you're coming to me, this is awesome. But they don't get a chance to ignore you and start to learn that, oh, well, I only come to mom once in a while when I feel like it. Like if you went outside in your yard or you're at a park and you do that a couple times a week, that keeps it fresh. So they're in that habit of, oh yeah, it's always worth it. And you can use, you can take like some really, really tasty treats, something that's special that they don't always get, and keep those in your pocket, or maybe use toys or use your affection. So it's not so much about just one thing that they get, but it's more keeping it interesting so that it's just always worth it. Like, oh, maybe mom has something now.
Okay, that's a great idea, because the girls, they need to work on Maddie coming to them. So this would be a great summer experiment.
Yeah.
As they're in the house or in and out of the house and I'm at work, that they could be calling Maddie with different treats. Yeah. To get her to come.
Or toys. And I also say don't always use treats, because you don't want to be stuck in a situation where you're, you need your dog to come, but they know that you don't have treats, because that happens to a lot of dogs where they get in that rut. Well, okay, well, you've got treats, so I'll come, but they can smell when you don't have them.
Right.
Yeah, it's not worth it now. So mix it up so that they're getting tons of affection and belly rubs and scratches and, oh, good boy, good girl. And then sometimes it's a treat. Sometimes it's a squeaky toy playing with it. So it's always interesting, and you've always got something that's a little bit better than whatever they're doing.
And do you continue to do this constantly?
You can start to slack off when your dog is coming more reliably.
Okay.
But I can tell, even with my 8-year-old Shepherd mix, she gets rusty. So if I don't do it with her for a couple of weeks and she's across the yard, she knows. She's like, okay, yeah, I'm not doing that. So, but when that happens, I kind of set myself up. So I know if she's not going to come, I'm probably not going to call her. I'm going to figure out a way to get over to her if I need her. Does that make sense? That gives her no room to ignore me. So it kind of sets us both up to, okay, well, at least I didn't call you, so I didn't get a chance to not follow through.
Okay, perfect. Okay. And any more tips for our listeners?
I think if your dog does get away from you and you're in a really busy area, or it's just somewhere where it might be dangerous near traffic or whatever, the worst thing you can do is chase your dog or get really, really worried and yell at them, because then they're going to think something's wrong, or they're either going to think something's wrong, or they're going to think this is a really fun game and mom gets really excited when I run away like this, and then it's on. So even though your excitement might be stress and worry, to the dog it's still just excitement. So they might try to run away from you more, or you might create this game where they're running off. when you need them to come to you. So if it's ever an emergency, I think the best thing to do, and it's what I've done, and I tell all of our clients, is to either drop to the ground like you're hurt, or just kind of sit down and make yourself lower, or turn around and go the other way.
Okay.
So and my dog Rudy, when he was about 4 years old, he's a border collie, and he flipped out of his leash. We saw a mom with a stroller and another dog coming towards us, and for whatever reason, it scared him to death, and he just did this little head flip, and he was out of his leash. And it was this moment, this instance, where he just froze and looked at me, and he had run into a busy highway. Well, not really a highway, but a really busy road leading into downtown Raleigh at rush hour. And so traffic stopped for him, and I'm just standing there, and I don't know what made me do it, but I turned around and I just ran away, and he chased me and chased me and chased me until we got far enough away that I sat down and he came right up to me. But if I had chased him in that instance, it would have been a nightmare.
Yeah,
You'll
right.
kind of turn that game around, and you can practice it too. So if you're in the yard or you're somewhere working on a recall and they don't come, sit down or lie down and flail your arms, or just run away and get them to chase you and see what they do. So that's going to kind of set you up to practice when you really are in that instance.
Yeah, I think every dog owner has had the chase with their dog.
Yeah.
And you just get more and more aggravated.
And they're loving it.
Yeah.
They love it. Oh, this is fun.
Yep, and they think it's a big game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, these are great tips, and especially since we have a dog that does not come.
Yeah.
I will definitely have the girls listen to the podcast.
Oh, wonderful. It's just figuring out what motivates them, what makes it worth it to them, and then always making it a super fun game. Just the best thing in the world.
Well, thank you very much, Kersti, for being on the podcast, and we look forward to having you back.
Thanks. I love talking.
This Bark and Wag has been brought to you by Rover. Whether you need in-home dog boarding, pet sitting, dog walking, or daycare, Rover connects pet parents with dog people who will treat their pets like family. Rover sitters are your rainy day dog walkers, your everyday belly rubbers, your tug of war players, your middle of the night pee breakers. Because we get it, your dog is family. And when you can't be there, you can trust them to keep your dog happy and healthy. And Bark and Wag has a special offer for your first booking. Get $25 off. Visit rover.com/vettalk and use promo code VETTALK during checkout. That's rover.com/VETTALK and promo code VETTALK during checkout.
Thank you for listening to Bark and Wag's 15-Minute Vet Talk. If you like what you just heard, we hope you'll pass along our web address, www.barkandwag.com, to your friends and other pet owners. Have a pressing question for a veterinarian? Ask your question at barkandwag.com under the podcast tab. This has been a KFR production. Join us next time for another edition of Bark and Wag's 15-Minute Vet Talk.